felony offender. Offenses: first-degree vehicular negligent injury, manslaughter, 2 counts, operating a vehicle while intoxicated, third offense. Sentencing date, October 9th, 2000. Sentenced to a total of 85 years. Parole date, August 1st, 2021. Good time, May 6, 2061. Full term, June 17, 2075. Is this information correct, sir?
Is that what?
Is that correct?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Kelsey?
How old are you?
I'm 60,
How long have you been incarcerated? How many years?
25 years. it'll be 25 years, May 3rd.
Okay. So you were 35, about 35 at the time of the accident,
Yes, sir.
and you were you had a third DWI, that's third DWI. How many times have you been stopped where you never got tickets? You probably wasn't just happened to be the third time. You probably many times, huh?
I think every time I got stopped for DWI, I went to jail.
So you
I
just
never got too many breaks. No, sir.
just 3 of them. You didn't have any other ones where they just stopped you and let you go.
No, I had one a long time ago out in West Texas. There's been years and years ago.
Well, tell me, let me ask you a couple questions. First of all, do you have a GED or high school diploma?
Yes, sir.
Which one?
I've got a GED.
Okay. So you got your GED while you were there.
Yes, sir.
All right. And tell me what you've been doing since you've been down. What have you been doing to help yourself? What kind of classes you've been taking? What you've been doing?
I had took a bunch of AA classes when I first got here. I took the classes that they're required. Let me see. I got them all over back here. Okay, yeah, I got the AA. I got the 100 hours, the anger management, the victims awareness, the thinking for a change. And for 18 years, I was in the bike shop building bikes for underprivileged children at Christmas time. When the wheelchair shop first started over here, we're the one that got in there and got the shop to running and got all the tools that was needed to refurbish or fix the wheelchair that we worked on to ship out, and we shipped out truckload after truckload of wheelchairs.
Okay. So you've been working, been doing some work. But talk to me a little bit about your disciplines in 17. It looks like you had a contraband and some intoxication, and just want to kind of know what's going on around 17.
In 2017, I was losing. Well, actually, I had lost hope about getting out of prison. I had got denied by the court. I was losing a lot of immediate family members, a first cousin, 3 grandparents, my dad, and a grandchild that I'd never even seen. And then I got this. It's my master prison record said my parole eligibility date was 11/1/67. I would be 106 years old, and I just lost hope. But I know now I took 2 classes.
What'd you do?
I smoked mojo.
Smoke mojo.
Yes, sir. It would put me to sleep.
You had mojo and you smoked some mojo and you were intoxicated. Well, like I said, look, those kind of things are concerning to me. I mean, you have a terrible record, terrible of alcohol, drug abuse, or alcohol abuse. And listen, when you think it's going to be any easier when you get out, if you do get out, I mean, there's a lot of stresses and problems, and that might have been some of your drinking that you did in the past because you were stressed and you had problems and issues. I mean, what's going to make me feel good that you're going to get out and just walk straight in there?
sir, I will not violate any law again. As soon as I get out, I will get into AA, and if given the opportunity, the parole project is going to help me get a sponsor. I've already got a couple of addresses to AA meetings right there close to the parole project.
Right.
So
And I understand that. But I
I'm
understand.
gonna surround myself with people that's accountable, that would hold me accountable for whatever I do.
Well, or had you taken any classes that taught you about your drug or alcohol addiction before you had this discipline?
I took some a long time ago. I'm in AA right now. I took them like substance abuse. That really, I got gateway to other drugs and stuff. You know, you don't consider any drug minor because it can be a gateway to something else. And I am drug free. I'm alcohol free, and that's how I will remain, sir.
How you gonna remember? So you gonna go to NAAA? You're gonna be involved in programs? Do you think you're still an alcoholic or not, or have you kicked that problem?
I've kicked that problem the way I understand it. Once alcoholic, always alcoholic. So I will remain sober, and I will remain in recovery. I will do whatever I need to remain sober for the rest of my life. I'm 60 years old, sir, and I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to put myself in a position to harm anyone, another family like Mr. and Mrs. DeVille, or my family. I will never do it again.
Well, what I mean, what were you thinking on that day? Tell me a little bit about the crime. I mean, it's tragic, it's terrible. I mean, you had been drinking and driving many times. What were you thinking on that day?
Well, I had been working most of that day. Throughout the day, we'd drink probably about a 6-pack. We changed transmission in a car. Well, I went to the store. I bought a 12-pack of beer and shot pool, and I drank 4 beers before I left. And when I come back, it's a little 1-lane gravel road. And when you come over this one hill, you can look at the top. If it's anything in the bottom, you can see a vehicle, because you'll see the top of it. So when I come over that hill, I looked and I didn't see anything. And I glanced at my clock. It was 8:13 p.m. When I looked back up, I seen a reflector close on the kind of right lane. Like I said, this is a 1-lane gravel road. I whipped my wheel to the left, and it was 2 boys behind bicycles. It was Josh and Tyler DeVille. I'd never seen them. Get them and kill both of them, sir. If it's anything I could do, if I could take my life and bring Josh and Tyler back, I would do so without a
I understand. But why were you taking that little road? Was there a better route for you to get home, or was it you were afraid you had been drinking and you would get somebody to catch you on the road? Why that little video? I saw pictures of it. I've looked in the chart. I've looked at every file, everything you have presented, and everything you have. I'm just trying to understand why that road?
Well, it's just a little cutoff between Highway 13 and the Wilson Camel Road. You come out right by the gravel road to my house.
So there wasn't a better because the road looked like it was. You're right, a little bit of nothing road. That's it sounds like that. Maybe you should have been on the regular roads to get to your house. Was there another way to get home?
Yes, sir. And I wish I would have took it, sir. I really do.
Warden, you have any input for me?
He's worked for the last few years, like you were saying, 2017 obviously had some issues. Prior to that, AU in 99 and didn't have any issues as far as 14s, any intoxications on his record. Since that time, he has moved back up. He's a Min A. He's been working with the range crew, and we've not had any problems with him at all since then. He's continuing to move forward with his AA and try to maintain his sobriety.
Thank you. So you're in AA and NA right now every day. How many times you go?
In AA, it's once a week, but right now we're shut down because of the coronavirus, sir.
Okay. And have you ever taken any long-term treatment, or are you just taking classes as you've taken them?
Just these classes, we go this every week, what we take it every Saturday. But every Saturday it never fails unless something like this it's in the way.
Well, it sounds like you try to do right. And look, your discipline's pretty good with the exception of 17, but that's very concerning to me. I'll be honest with you. I'm going to be very honest with you. That's very concerning. But let's sit back and we'll listen and see what we have. But we're here from Andrew Hunley right now.
Andrew Hunley with Louisiana Parole Project, offering to the board that our organization is prepared to provide reentry support to Mr. Pierce if he is granted parole today, which would include residential housing for a period of time until Mr. Pierce is back on his feet and is able to become self-sufficient. If he is released, he has a job lined up in the Baton Rouge area working at a private collision center. And that job stands ready for him if he comes home. The plan is for him to live in one of our residences until he can become self-sufficient, afford his own apartment, own transportation, and to continue with that job. He recognizes that going back to the area he lived previously is not a good plan, considering the harm that he caused another family with his actions decades ago. But he looks forward to having the opportunity to rebuild his life in the Baton Rouge area. He has family that live out of state, but he is hopeful that he will be approved to that Baton Rouge residence. If he is granted parole to Parole Project, in addition to our reentry program that this board's available to, we recognize that Mr. Pierce is an alcoholic, and he's going to need long-term care that will start with us with a substance abuse assessment. In addition to any conditions set forth by this board, our staff will be diligent in ensuring that he meets those conditions and that he has additional resources that will help him maintain his sobriety, which include but are not limited to assisting him in finding a sponsor and introducing him to local Alcoholics Anonymous groups that he can take part in. And I remain available to answer any questions you may have about his reentry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll hear from Miss Bailey, Miss Joyce.
Okay. Yeah. Okay, I'm Joyce. I'm James's mother. James has prepared himself for release. He's also grown into a dependable, responsible, and accountable person. He's very remorseful for what happened and recognizes pain and the sorrow that he has caused. He has a great family support, and we are here to help him and get through whatever obstacles come up.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We'll hear from Miss Amber. We'll hear from Miss Amber.
Hi, I'm James's cousin. Like Miss Joyce said, James has really prepared himself mentally, spiritually for this transition. He has started way back when, as you see in his records, trying to better his life and trying to hold himself accountable for the decisions that he made that day. We have great family across the board. He does have some in state, he does have some out of state, and we are all ready and willing to help James through this transition while he gets back on his feet. And we're also going to be there to support him spiritually as well. We know the world's kind of crazy these days, and so he's definitely not coming home to what he left, and that's okay. We're going to be here for him, and we're going to help support him through that. But we really sorry about that. We really sorry about that. We really believe we really believe that James is ready himself to do those things. We're going to be here to support him, but we don't believe we're going to have to drag him anywhere. We believe that he is ready. He does recognize the trauma and the sorrow that he has put those families through, us included. And we know that he is ready to reintegrate into society and try to get somewhat of a life back, you know. Thank you for letting me talk.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. We're here for Mr. Larry.
Yeah, I'm Larry Johnson, and I've known, I call him Chris. Y'all call him James. His dad's name was James, but I knew all of his family. I taught he and his two siblings back in their early years of school. But I was close friends with all of his family, his mother, his grandparents, and all of them. I've been knowing them for 50 plus years. We go to the same church, and Chris was raised in church, but like so many young people that I've taught in the past, and I've been retired 30 years, but I see what destruction drugs and alcohol does to our society and our world, and I'm so against it. But I remember that accident like it was yesterday. I mean, I wasn't there. I know all the people that was involved. I'm related to most of them on both sides of the thing, and they're all good people. And it was a terrible thing, but it was 25 years ago, and they're Christians, we're Christians, and I just believe that Chris has, from talking to his mother, and I've talked to him, and I just believe that he truly has changed. If I didn't believe that, I would be the first one to say that he needs to stay there. And at the time this all happened, I said that's where he needed to be. But God's word tells us that we're to forgive, and God gives us opportunities. And I felt so bad for that family. I know them all, and I acknowledge it was a terrible thing. And I don't know what I would have done, but he needs another chance. And I truly believe that he is going to try his best. No one is perfect, but I think his mother needs him to know that he's going to be able to live a life of some sort besides incarceration. He's a young man. He says he's 60 years old, but I didn't always consider that as a young man. But,
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Many years.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for your comment. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Now we'll hear from Miss Cindy.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. Joshua and Tyler DeVille are my sons. I wouldn't be here today if it were not for Pierce. I wouldn't be feeling the pain, the grief. It's as raw today as it was on May 3rd, 1997. The only thing is I learned to live with it. I wanted to tell you a little bit about Joshua and Tyler and who they were. They loved life, and they were members of the Boy Scouts. And as a matter of fact, Joshua helped start 2 units in nearby communities. And they loved being outdoors, spending time playing with their family and playing with their best friend, Neil. And they had a great understanding, even at their young age, of what it truly meant to be good, kind, and loving. Joshua and Tyler didn't have a choice on that day. They did not have the opportunity to say, I want to live. Pierce made that decision for them. He sentenced 2 innocent little boys so full of life to death with his actions. Pierce knew what he was doing on that day. He made the decision and chose to drive after consuming the alcohol and the other substances. No one forced or persuaded him to do this. He made the choice to drive drunk on his own free will, and our innocent sons paid the price for his irresponsible actions. But he didn't only sentence our two sons, he sentenced us to a life without them. We had a home full of love and joy, but our family as we knew it was gone. It was no more. It's unbearable agony to bury your own children, especially two at the same time. There were so many days I spent in their bedroom just pulling things that belonged to them to me to feel close to them and just smell their scent on their clothes and their blankets. And if it wouldn't have been for my 5-year-old daughter walking in that bedroom and saying, "Mommy, you still got me," I honestly don't know if I would have survived. And I spent the next few years getting the professional help that I needed in order to take care of my daughter, my only living child, and my husband. I had panic attacks since that day to where I would become paralyzed with fear that something would happen to her. And there were so many days when she would be safe at school or with grandparents or aunts and uncles that I could not stand it, and I would go and pick her up because of that fear. And to this day, I still have those panic attacks. Their father was wrenched with grief, but he held it in and wouldn't show it because he was worried he would make it worse on me or harder for me. But I'd see him sitting off silently where he thought no one could see him, and his body would be trembling and shaking because he was crying so hard for his son. He now has no sons to carry on the DeVille family name, his family legacy. He did not have the opportunity to teach them to play sports or go hunting or have those father-son talks as they grew into young men. It became emotionally difficult for us to live in our home, a home that was once full of the sound of laughter, the pitter-patter of the feet, and even the arguing between siblings. We ended up having to leave our home for weeks at a time to try and come to terms with what had happened. It's been over 24 years since we've heard those beautiful words that our children so often say to us, "I love you, Mom. I love you, Dad." There's no more hugs or beautiful smiles from them. There's no more birthday parties or celebrations for any accomplishments that they may have had in their life. Joshua and Tyler did not get to finish high school or graduate or go to college or see what life had in store for them. We often wonder what Josh and Tyler would look like as grown young men, what career path they would have chosen. Would they have followed in their grandfather's footsteps to be part of the armed services because of their love of hearing his stories about the service? How many more grandchildren we would have to love in our family? But we'll never know these answers because of the actions of Pierce. I don't know what decisions can be made here today, but I wondered if he would ever admit to what he did or even show any remorse for what he has done. And if he did, I would have to wonder if it would be sincere and from the heart, especially after he told me to chill out as I sat in the ditch with my sons on each side of me, praying for God to not take them from us. And he sat on the ground with yellowed eyes, too drunk to stand up. Before his sentencing, he wrote us a letter. In it, he did not admit guilt for what he did. He did not apologize to us. He did not show any kind of remorse in the letter. The purpose of his letter was to see if we could find it in our hearts to ask the judge to be lenient on his sentencing. It was evident during the trial he had no remorse. The judge made the following comment: "The court has observed you carefully during your trial, as it is doing at this time, and will state with certainty that at no time have you shown any remorse whatsoever. In fact, when the jury verdicts were read, you smiled, or rather smirked."
Yes, ma'am. And
The
wrap up. Yes, ma'am.
The pre-sentence investigation indicates of 16 years of reckless behavior before killing our sons. I ask you to think of our sons who committed no crime and were sentenced to death by Pierce, and to think of us who suffered without them, and to think of his reckless and cruel actions that day. And if he has changed and he has done all the things he's said he's done, that's good for him. But I still do not believe he should be allowed the opportunity to freely walk the streets after killing our sons, Joshua and Tyler, and nearly killing their best friend, Neil.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So sorry. Thank you for your comments. Sarah, would you like to make a brief comment?
Yes, sir. I'm their younger sister, their only sister that they had. I was only 5 years old when the accident happened, so I really don't have that many memories of them. But what I do remember is that Joshua, he was the protector of me and Tyler. He always watched out for us. He was always there. Tyler, he was the fighter. And then when I say fighter, I mean fighter for life. He had a lot of health issues that he was growing up with. And so he knew he wanted to live. And he was not given that choice. And I only really get to know them now is just from pictures that I find of them and hearing stories from my mom and dad and other family friends. And from what I hear about them, they made a pretty positive impact on life. And as young kids, you can only imagine what they could have done as adults. One memory I do want to share with y'all that I will never, ever forget. Oh, hold on, I gotta find where I'm at. I had it all written down, and the one memory that I have is the evening of May 3rd on 1997. I remember my mom grabbing me, throwing me in the backseat of her car. We arrived to the scene, and all I remember seeing people run around, the flashing lights from the ambulance and the cops. I remember seeing men pick the car up to be able to pull Neil out from underneath the car. And then my mom pulling me out the car and begging God not to take her boys away. And that's the last memories I'll ever have of them. So, hang on. So from that moment on, I had to grow up as an only child. It's not easy. I'll never get to know what they were like. And he could be sorry for what he's done, but that can never be brought back. He could be let free, have another chance at life, but they will never get it.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. I'm so sorry. Thank you for your comments. All right, we'll hear from Miss Margaret. You're on mute.
Unmute. Hello.
Okay, go ahead, Miss Margaret. Brief comment.
Okay. For the parents of Neil Fontenot, Neil was the sole survivor of this accident. He was with his three best friends. We called them the Three Amigos. Now, from Neil's statement, Pierce maliciously, deliberately ran off the road and ran all 3 boys down. Our son was the last in line. He ended up under the car of Chris Pierce. He sat against the car, smoked a cigarette, and ignored my son's pleas for help. Now, with the memory of my son lives with this daily. He has went through therapy, counseling. He has had anger issues when he was younger. I just can't believe that he never apologized to Patrick and I. And I cannot believe he has the audacity to want to be paroled because he is a repeat offender. And I don't think in my heart and my mother's heart that this man is reformed enough to not do this again.
All right. Thank you so much. We'll hear from Mr. Patrick now.
Can you see him?
We can.
My wife, my wife has summed it up pretty good for us, both of us.
I don't think he deserves to be free because I'm afraid he will do this again to some innocent person.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for your comments. And thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Mr. Pierce, would you like to make a statement on your behalf?
Sir, I'm just so sorry. It's just heart-wrenching for them 2 boys, Josh and Tyler. I'm so sorry. If I could take anything back, I would. If I could take my life and bring them back, I would do so in a second. I will never put myself in a position to hurt anyone ever again. I want to help people, not hurt them. And given the opportunity here, I will help people.
I thank you. All right, as panel prepared to vote, I'll vote first. Mr. Pierce, you've done you've been working hard. You've done a lot of work. You've done a lot of good things in there. I think I've gone over this file many times. It's a terrible crime, and again, just so sorry to the victims of this crime. Just unnecessary crime. You have a history of drugs and alcohol. You've had multiple DWIs, but we look at what you've been doing, and you have done some really good things. You've done some really good things while you've been in prison. You're working hard to do the right things. Like I said, for me, my concern is the intoxication. Even though it's in 17, you were in jail 20 years for a terrible, devastating crime that you committed due to drugs and alcohol, and then to just fall right back in that during stressful. Because when you do get out, it's going to be stressful outside. I mean, I'd like to see more time from that 17. I'd like to continue to work hard in NAA, some more substance abuse classes. But today, due to law enforcement opposition, victim opposition, I still think you need some more work. My vote is to deny your parole. Ms. Cheryl Renatza.
Thank you, Mr. Pierce. The Mojo episode is problematic. And even though, as Mr. Kelsey said, that was 5 years ago, it was still a conscious decision that you made, especially given your history. I understand that you say you were going through a whole lot, but look, life is not easy on the outside. And so I need a more sustained period of you proving to us that you can make good choices and good decisions. So my vote today also is to deny. I would encourage you to stay right up free, keep doing good work right back when you're eligible to do so.
All right.
Miss Bonnie Jackson.
Hey, Mr. Pierce, for the same reasons as my colleagues, it really did bother me that in 2017, you got 3 separate write-ups for intoxication. And then your explanation for it today was that a lot of things had happened and you were under a lot of stress. And your fallback was intoxication. When you have a 3rd offense DWI, it only becomes a felony on your 3rd one. But that means you have had a pattern of drinking and driving. And that concerns me. And I just don't feel like you've had sufficient substance abuse treatment. And I don't know that AA alone is enough. You might need something more intensive than AA, and you're not even in it right now. And so because of your write-ups in 2017 for intoxication and your lack of any long-term substance abuse treatment. My vote today is to deny. Good luck to you. Keep working hard, Mr. Pierce.
All right, you have 3 votes to deny your parole today. Your parole's been denied. Good luck.
All right.
Thanks for everybody being a part of the process.
All right.
What a painful hearing. What a heartbreaking hearing to listen to their mother talk about that. 2 little boys taken by this disgusting, selfish monster. To hear him talk about the way that he acted in court, how he acted at the scene. I don't feel bad for him. And you know what really upset me? It was like just adding insult to injury is when the priest comes on and he goes on wanting to hear himself talk. Oh, I've been retired for 40 years, but I've known them and I've known people and I remember this day and things are bad, but he deserves to get out. He has to get out. And then he says that God's words tells us that we have to forgive. He needs another chance. It's like, why do you think you have a right to come up here with the victims still in remarkable pain and disregard them completely? Why? He needs to get out. Why? I know in my heart that he will do his best. He will try his best. Really? You know in your heart, so you're willing to risk more lives? We're going to go over the court docs. Thank you, Richard, for providing it. And this guy, as you probably had suspected already, the 3 DUIs is just the tip of the iceberg. He has a trail of complete disregard and offenses of driving in his car. He has no business ever being in a car back then. Imagine taking the risk and letting him out now. Not to mention that he had the mojo write-ups. And what he had said is, it helps me sleep better. Yeah, mojo. And you might say he's got sentenced to all these years. How could it be that he can get out so early? And my understanding is that it's because of Act 122, which the Parole Project, of course, is showing up here to give a speech. Who cares about the victims? Who cares about future victims? Who cares about the 3 little boys pinned under the car, 2 of them gone? And what they didn't mention, he fled the scene. It says it here in the report. He fled the scene. He left the kid pinned under the car and fled the scene. Child. Let's go over it. You can actually sense it. You can see it. The idea that he would even appeal this, and he appeals it saying, so here's the reasons that he goes for the appeal. So the defendant was charged, appeals his conviction for driving while intoxicated, 3rd offense, 2 counts of manslaughter, and 1 count of first-degree vehicular negligent injury. Those are for the 3 little kids that he ran his car into. And what'd he say? He just had a few beers. He was driving down the road, and he looked down at the clock, looked up, and they were there. He, even in this hearing, didn't take accountability. I mean, think about that. What he said. He made it seem like he really didn't drink that much. He was just the unluckiest guy in the world. What were those kids doing there? A motion to recuse the trial judge was filed October 16, 1998, and after a hearing conducted by a different division court, the motion was denied. The defendant filed a writ application in this court. We denied relief, finding an error in the trial's court ruling after the trial jury returned a verdict of guilty on all counts. At the sentencing hearing in December 1998, the defendant re-urged his motion to recuse. The motion was denied. The trial judge sentenced the defendant to serve consecutive sentences of 5 years at hard labor for his conviction of third offense DWI, 40 years at hard labor for each of the manslaughter convictions, and 5 years at hard labor for first-degree vehicular negligent injuring, for a total of 90 years. The trial court denied the defense's oral request for reconsideration of sentence. And he appeals. He was basically saying that the judge had something out for him. The facts of the case: late on the afternoon of May 3rd, 1997, the defendant was driving under the influence of alcohol and the devil's lettuce when he ran over 3 young boys who were riding bicycles, just riding bicycles. 2 of the boys, who were brothers, were found dead at the scene by their parents. I mean, you just can't get more tragic than this. The 3rd boy was pinned under the defendant's vehicle and was seriously injured. After the wreck, the defendant fled the scene and was taken into custody some 8 hours later. Now, he wanted the judge to recuse himself because 20 years prior, he had actually, it seems that he had stood over a small claims court between the 2 families. I think it was between the same 2 families. And he was suing that family, and the judge gave a verdict against him where he then owed them money. If it wasn't their family, it was a different family, but the judge. And they said because of those 20 years ago, he should have recused himself, but he said no. And then he brings up other reasons why the judge should have recused himself. His involvement: the defendant contends that the prior representation itself does not require recusal, but the judge lacks candor, shows a personal bias and prejudice against the defendant. He points out that although Judge Alcoyne testified at the recusal hearing that he did not recall the defendant. He had in fact appeared before the judge on July 15, 1994 for a DWI offense. So he was against the same judge in a 94 DWI. And here's where we go through his record. And then on August 12, 1995 for driving under suspension and careless operation. And on May 20th, 1998 for speeding while driving under suspension and careless operation. Then resisting arrest and failure to use a signal when turning. The defendant provides no proof of this allegation, but we note that on July 24, 1994, a guilty plea of which was used as a predicate for the charge of third offense DWI was taken by Judge Alcoyne. Finally, the defense points to the following excerpts from the original sentencing proceedings as the evidence of the bias of the judge's bias against the defendant. I really like this speech. This is what the judge told him at sentencing. Through your utter and disdainful disregard for human life and safety of our people, particularly our little children, and your avaricious, oh gosh, I don't know what this word is. Avaricious and glutinous desire to selfishly satisfy your piggish and ravenous desire, as a lion greedy of his prey, you embarked upon one of the most wicked and macabre journeys in Evangeline Parish, hell-bent on gratifying your perverse evil pleasures by drinking alcohol and doping yourself into stupor and committing the most despicable crimes known to the citizens of our parish. That's a speech, huh? Snap. I would like to shake that judge's hand. It appears to the court that you were deriving sadistic pleasure from the brutal and inhumane deeds. I ask you, Mr. Pierce, what kind of human being are you? Are you a human at all, or a wicked, cruel, depraved, lowly, subhuman type of merciless monster? You have demonstrated to the court that you are a personification of wickedness, and you represent immoral depravity. You're a demonic creature, crazed, dope up, drunken drivers like you, recklessly determined to wreak havoc upon the lives of others. Mister, you are a big-time felonist. The defendant contends that this, along with the lack of factual basis for the sentencing, shows that the sentences were not individualized and that the judge was biased. And then they bring up why it would be considered that he's biased. What would it have made a difference? You think any judge would have had mercy on you, even if you was biased? This was your appeal. Man, you just the tragedy that exists in this world, the pain, to hear mom talk about how she would cry in the room and hold her clothes so she could smell them. And then for her youngest daughter to come in and say, "You still have me." It's just heartbreaking. I concur with every word that the judge said. And I didn't see any remorse even now. It looks like, having found double jeopardy violation occurred, the defendant's conviction for DWI third offense was reversed, and that sentence was vacated, but the remaining convictions were affirmed. So I think he got 5 years taken off. Good riddance. Yeah. He simply cannot be trusted out of prison. You can't, to make that gamble, to take that chance, there's little doubt in my mind that he would get back into a car intoxicated. And you simply cannot flip that coin. With that, I'll let you go. Oh, wait a minute. Actually, I do want to rage one more thing about how it's like, I'm so used to it already that it's just normal. But the idea that Brennan Kelsey was again cutting off the victim's mother while she's in a passionate speech and then cutting off the daughter, that's the first time the daughter has ever gotten to speak about what she's experienced, and you're going to cut her off early. Shame on you. Now with that, I'll let you go.